Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex. This is Big Baby Reviews. Check out my comics, Big Baby and Star Crasher on KingComics.CA. Check out my other videos on YouTube. King Comics 2021 is the channel. Check out my Instagram, Maximus Rex 13, and Facebook, Max Rex and or Big Baby. Today, guys, Wildcard Sunday. We're looking at something a little bit different. You know the drill. So, pulled out this old magazine called Marvel Year in Review 93. Searing self-satire is what it claims on the cover. Basically, kind of a parody magazine, year in review kind of deal that they used to do on television and stuff for certain like kind of popular TV shows. They show you behind the scenes footage and like lost takes of certain scenes and shots or whatever. So kind of the comic book version of that. There's really just one main reason why I got this back in the day. Originally did not buy this new. Pretty sure I bought this used even back then when I was like 13 years old, 12 or 13 when this came out. So maybe a little bit later. Again, the main reason you're looking at it right now, the cover by Sam Keith, which I think looks awesome. This is peak Keith for me, somewhere again between when he was working on Marvel Comics Presents, that last run, and moving over to Image Comics with those early issues of the Max. And I mean, I can't remember, I could be wrong on this, but any other time that Sam Keith has drawn both Sabretooth and Deadpool, and I think they both look really awesome. I think a Sam Keith Deadpool would be pretty cool. Had a, some sort of mini-series or something materialized back in the day. I think that could have been pretty fun, cool, given the kind of cartoony nature of both the character now and his personality and Sam Keith's art. I think it could work pretty well. Taking in some of the stuff he did on the Max and that specifically that book I reviewed, Batman Lobo, some of that kind of stuff. Venom he's done before in Marvel Comics Presents. I think I've told you guys probably before. All right, we're back after some technical difficulties. Just going to stitch that together real quick and move on with this here review of the Marvel Year in Review 1993. So we talked a lot about the cool Sam Keith cover. So let's move on and have a look inside. Listen, the satire, the parody hits or it doesn't. Even after all these years, I think the level of humor for me hasn't changed that much, in the sense that like the same things that I thought were kind of funny back in the day still are, and the things that are super cheesy are still pretty cheesy, is basically what I'm going to say. But there's some cool kind of mock ads here. Deadpool's going to Murder World. They're kind of, back in the day, Disney World was a big thing and advertised it. Not that it isn't today, but just maybe more mystery behind it. Now we know too much behind, kind of the curtain, what's going on behind the scenes maybe today, with a lot of stuff actually. But back then, yeah, it was kind of that Wizard of Oz kind of situation, right? But yeah, back then Disney was still kind of the beloved company overall, and they're parodying that. So instead of going to Disney World, they're going to Murder World, which is Anton Arcane, right? Arcade, excuse me. So apparently there's some regular features in this. That's what it says on that first table of contents page. I don't know how many of these they made, if they did it every year. I don't know exactly how that works. If anyone knows that, let me know in the comments. But this is the only one I'm really aware of. They probably did it for a few years, pretty sure. So an ad for Alpha Flight, which, that never is going to pay off. For some reason, I'm Canadian, and Alpha Flight just never picked up and never was that popular. They got to 100 and something issues, I guess. Early on, probably helped that John Byrne was doing it, but yeah, I personally never was much into it, so I don't know. Convince me on a streak or a run that I should check out. So Super Job Retraining, this article, I'm not going to go through it, but it's basically they're taking the idea that like Superman and Batman are fed up with kind of working for DC, and they're coming over to Marvel, and Marvel's making them go through kind of the Marvel method of superheroing, and they're just not cut out for it, is basically what's going on here. I remember marveling as a kid that they, now I know that's pretty common, but I was like, oh man, that's pretty close to the original thing here, but they're just kind of covering it up with these big black spots, which is kind of funny and smart, I guess. Both parodying Batman and Superman and avoiding all kind of legal hassles is probably the goal there. This was the year of the annuals where they introduced all new characters. I think DC did the same, either that same year, 93 or 94. And neither of those series really introduced any kind of memorable characters. I can't think of any. There's a few that stuck around for DC. There's like Hitman. And I think that's the only one I can actually remember. I remember visually a few, but I don't even remember their names. I can't spell them out here. But I mean, is that how I'm supposed to? I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Cuchulainn or Cuchulainn, the Irish wolfhound. Yeah. Devour, actually. The design's not horrible. It's interesting. I wonder if this is possibly Greg Capullo drawing this. Am I off there? I'm not sure. Yeah, just a lot of not very memorable characters. Chaos with a K, because it's the 90s. Night Terror, combine two scary words together. Blood cancer. And Extreme hung around for a while. For some reason, there's something I like about this drawing. Although he looks kind of, I don't know how transgendery in this shot. Kind of ahead of its time, I guess. We've got a few parodies here of Captain America and Roman times. I like this. I thought this was funny as a kid, and I don't know if this would pass in children's humor today or teenagers' humor. Anyways, Marvel Comics and stuff, mainstream stuff. I'll just read it real quick. And so, my fellow Romans, sic semper tyrannis, gasped the senators, led by Brutus, who moves with a speed that belies his massive bulk. So Brutus here's the Hulk, I guess, but Captain America saves the day. Or sorry, Captain Romanus. Thank Jupiter, it's Captain Romanus. Not so fast, Brutus. Poof. Captain, your reward shall be 1,000 slaves. The everlasting glory of the Roman Empire is reward enough, my lord. So yeah, I always thought that was funny as a kid that, Captain America's being offered up a bunch of slaves. Not politically correct, but it's funny. Come on. It's a comic. The Fantastic Four, French. I could point out some of the mistakes here, but I wouldn't expect an American guy to know perfect French to write all this stuff. So, but I will just because I'm a jerk. Monsieur Elastique. So Mr. Fantastic, but they're calling him Mr. Elastic, really. There should be an accent aigu on that. And if you're English, you have no idea what that is. It's a weird form of punctuation we use in French. There's 2 or 3 different variations there. Anyways. Suddenly, la femme qui n'est pas visible notices. They're close. What they wanted to say, I'm pretty sure, la femme qui n'est pas visible. So A would be an I. Like visible, right? The word in English is visible. Visible is like targetable or like aiming at. So that really doesn't make sense in this context, I guess. And, well, this is obviously just a spelling mistake here. C'est le temps. You could say that. It's time, right, in French, but there should be an S here. You don't pronounce it. It's French. It's weird. Et pour le grand cloberie. The way cloberie is written, I don't know if you know this, but in French, there's masculine and feminine. So cloberie with the IE here would kind of imply that this is a feminine word. So grand is masculine for tall. Grande with an E would be the feminine. Sorry for the whole French lesson here. But yeah, French is... The thing Anglophones usually think is very funny with French or odd is that things are either masculine and feminine. I don't know how to explain it other than that's just the way it is. I like this strip because it does kind of reproduce that Steve Ditko style, right? It really went back to that, but reinterprets it in kind of communist Spider-Man. I liked the dialogue in this one. Create Lenin's ghost. An explosion has occurred at the People's Tractor Factory. Get over there, Parkerov. Failing to meet Bettina Bronsky at the collective discussion would be most uncomradely. But Georgie, no buts. And if you get me pictures of the so-called Comrade Arachnid, you get 20 extra rubles. Comrade Arachnid? What would he have to do with this? I know he's got his capitalist clause in it somehow. Now go get those photographs. That's hilarious. There's only one way to get to the factory in time, as my alter ego, Comrade Arachnid, obviously. But I must always remember that despite my incredible superpowers... Right? Great power, great responsibility. I love the spin on it here. I am no better or worse than my comrades, the heroic proletariat. Very kind of leftist, communist, kind of bent on the Spider-Man. And I appreciate the fact that this may be the first external web shooters I've ever seen for Spider-Man. That didn't happen with Ben Reilly till later on in the 90s. So this guy's, whoever drew this is kind of a precursor, interestingly enough. And I think it looks pretty cool here because it looks kind of big and bulky and kind of clumsy and kind of like, Russian tech. I don't know how else to describe it. Solid but clunky. Punisher's, prehistoric character coexisting with dinosaurs. That's an anachronism. Is that how we say that? And what was mentioned on the cover, I don't know if I mentioned it, but Bring on the Bad Guys, why today's villains are more popular than the heroes. So they are actually kind of, I don't want to say self-involved, but they're aware, they're self-aware is what, yeah, exactly. They're aware that, you know, by this time in the early 90s, it seems like the bad guys are a little bit more popular than the heroes, or, you know, it's kind of like in wrestling with superheroes and villains and stuff. There's heat and they turn, right? So in and around this time is when they started to try to take Sabretooth and the other two characters right on the cover, Venom and Deadpool, and kind of turn them more into anti-heroes, right? Which were popular. Wolverine was kind of a precursor. He was around since the 70s, but the 90s really kind of pushed that anti-hero vibe, right? Image certainly did with, you know, most of their characters, Spawn, Savage Dragon, Pit, right? All that stuff. And I always liked this as a kid, and I still do today. Just like, you know, they're kind of pointing to how extreme it's getting, you know? So you start off with Spider-Man. They call it the good, the better, the even better, and the best, right? So Spider-Man is good. Venom's even better, right? Carnage, even better than that, and best is Bile. So this is, you know, in around the time that Carnage was introduced, and the whole idea of, wow, there could be more than just Venom as a symbiote, right? Or symbiote. Someone can help me with that pronunciation too in the comments. But you know, this is the first, again, in a weird way, just like the Spider-Man outside wrist bracelets or web shooters. This is the first kind of twist past Carnage, right? And we know that, you know, what's that whole storyline with the symbiotes? I forget what it's called, but in the 90s, it's going to get really nuts at a certain point with the symbiotes. Maybe they got the idea from here. I don't know. But like the first kind of hint that there would be other symbiotes. And at a certain point, I can't even count how many there have been with names similar to Venom, Poison, you know, etc. Thor, Thunderstrike, and they invented this guy, Godhead. So I like also the description real quick. Norse god of thunder from Brooklyn. So he's got, like, you know, the New York attitude, or Brooklyn attitude, excuse me. And convinced he is God, holed up in his compound, waiting for Ragnarok. Good, Captain America, better U.S. agent, extremist right-wing, hard-nosed American, liberalistic flag-waving symbol of democracy is Captain America. And who's this guy? Blow all them foreigners to hell and let God sort them out. The Patriot missile. I mean, some of this is, I think this was one of the funnier things in this whole book. So good is Wolverine, better is Sabretooth, and best is Clawjaw. Unhousebroken, uncontrollable killing machine with poor bodily hygiene. Yeah, you would have to assume that guys like Wolverine and Sabretooth probably smell like armpit a little bit. And I do want to point out, this is, you know, the early 90s of Marvel. The Image guys have moved on to Image and started their books. And Marvel is still kind of using, you know, the McFarlane clout. They got a McFarlane Spider-Man in here. You know, they got the popular characters appearing throughout the book on the cover, right? Characters that were popularized by McFarlane and Liefeld especially, right? Deadpool. And that, you know, that new costume that Sabretooth is wearing in around this time, designed by Jim Lee, right? So they're still trying to capitalize a little bit on the Image guys, and you get a little bit of that in here. I don't know how long that lasts, but there's an interview with Morbius. I mean, I don't know. I'm not super into that. The art here is pretty cool. I forget the gentleman's name. Is it Ron Garney who was drawing that back then? Or I apologize to whoever it was, but yeah, Morbius was kind of interesting those first few issues, excuse me, at least. So again, maybe at the time, just before the takeover of all the symbiotes, you can see there's already a few variations on Spider-Man there. You got them all in one shot. Mark Bagley art. Pretty cool. Mark Bagley I thought was great, but not like amazing. He's solid, right? And he's a little bit better than the house style guys, but he's somewhere in between, you know, the house style and the flashier artists. Yeah, so again, these, you know, now they're promoting characters, like I said, Rob Liefeld characters, newer characters, but also newer artists because all the Image guys left. So you've got Derek Robertson down here drawing Speedball. You've got Greg Capullo drawing Cable here. I like the fact that the gun says Ouchmaker. Nice kind of funny touch. And Greg Capullo's talked about this period where the fact that Marvel, because the Image guys had left, Marvel wasn't pushing them very much. All these new artists, up-and-comers, who were kind of replacing the Image guys on these X-Books and Spider-Man or whatever. And for that reason is how he kind of got lured into with Tom McFarlane and Spawn, right? And probably a much better, at that time, better exposure and probably much better pay as well on Spawn for sure. So again, Marvel's still kind of banking on the Rob Liefelds and the newer artists who will move on to Image. This Gambit miniseries, I used to have it and I can't find it anymore. You know, I've done two purges, I think, in my life of comic books, right? So I lost that miniseries somewhere along the line, and I always loved it, and I reread it a bunch of times. It's actually pretty fun. The art was great by Lee Weeks, so kind of sad about that. Jim Lee Punisher right here, and that's even like pre-X-Men stuff, right? So that's a few years past, and they're still using this. It's like the editor said, you know, make sure you throw in a Jim Lee Punisher in there or something by Jim Lee. So the closest, quickest thing that was around, I guess, was his Punisher shot. Not super funny. Most of the stuff is, like I said, some of the parody hits, some of it doesn't. I've already pretty much gone through, I think, what's the funnier stuff. So, I mean, really, this is just a huge bit of nostalgia for me. It's just fun to go through it again. As a kid, I loved it, and I went through it a bunch of times, even though I didn't read everything. Do like this is kind of a slice of life of in around that time, right? This kind of like, by 93, you know, grunge and alternative has really hit the mainstream, right? So, you know, when guys are drawing them in comic books, you know, grunge, unfortunately, was supposed to be kind of an anti-style, but it became a style, right? The look you got here, you would see in, like, Sears catalog for teenagers of that period. So it had gone mainstream. You know, I don't know of many actual, you know, forebears of alternative grunge music, whatever you want to call it, from the late 80s, early 90s, who wore, like, biker shorts. And just, you know, here's the Eddie Vedder hunter's jacket or sweater tied around the hips, right? The Nirvana shirt, of course, which today you would have to blur out or something, or call it Birdana, or so you don't have to pay rights. This, I don't know if you remember, this is based on a specific ad. Just if you write Britannica, what is it? Encyclopedia Britannica. This guy was like the spokesperson to sell those. So this, I do find this kind of funny just because of that. It reminds me of those old ads. Because he, like it says here, it's based on the ad. Hi, remember me? I'm the kid who had a report due on space. And of course, you know, in the actual ad, he uses the Encyclopedia Britannica to help him out. Well, I got an F. My teacher said I copied the whole thing right out of a set of encyclopedias. They're not mentioning them, but that's what we're talking about, right? That's why I ordered this complete set of the Darkhold, so the demonic kind of collection of books from the Marvel Universe. One incantation later, my teacher was writhing on the cafeteria floor, speaking in tongues. And it goes on, but yeah, I like this ad and the parallel between the actual ad for the encyclopedias. Pretty funny. This is kind of the same idea in a way from what we saw earlier with, like, you know, good, better, and best with, you know, who was it? With Spider-Man, Wolverine, a few characters, and they invented them. Here, they're just kind of pointing out how some of these villains are very, very similar. And especially in the X-Men world. So yeah, I would agree Apocalypse, Mr. Sinister, and Strife kind of all have the same kind of stature, and you know, some of the colors are pretty similar as well. The mutant Yakuza axis, all the you know, Asian dudes basically in the X-Men universe. Shinobi Shaw, Matsuo, Nyorin, and Tatsuo. So yeah, they all look kind of similar. One guy's got a mustache. That's about the difference here. I don't know if these guys are that similar. I do think their looks are actually dissimilar enough. Pretty sure that's a little Greg Capullo drawing. Possibly that as well. Probably comes from the same comic. I can just spot Greg Capullo's facial structure there. His Gideon looks pretty good as opposed to Rob Liefeld's, honestly. I think his Gideon looks better. And there you go. That's it. There's a classifieds here. I'm not going to go through that, but you know, you can probably already figure out what kind of parody that is. You got another ad for Murder World, and then you've got one last one here. EverX audio tapes. Woohoo, tapes, eh? Those still existed in 93. Reproduction so good you have to ask yourself, is it live or is it EverX? I feel like this is a parody of an ad, maybe a video ad or something, but I mean, 93, man. I'm surprised we're still doing stuff about tapes. Thought CDs had pretty much taken over. I have to check the timeline, but anyways. There you go, guys. That is my review of the Marvel Year in Review 1993. If you're subscribed to the channel, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and hope you're going to stick around for more videos. If you're watching but you're not subscribed, please do so below. It helps us out here at the channel. Takes a little bit of time for you, nothing at all, and helps get us out there to other people who are interested in the same subject matter that we are, namely comic books. So thank you guys once again for watching. Have a great Sunday, and have an awesome day as well. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.
Like! Subscribe!